certainly not for people of my generation. You sit there, I'll give you the mic. Just one quick reminder, this is a 50-minute session, you can time it. So after 40 minutes, we will open it up for the questions, and after 40 minutes, the volunteer, the venue coordinator will give you a visual cue to show that 10 minutes are left. Let me also mention, ladies and gentlemen, that after the session, Amolji has kindly agreed to sign his books, and the books will be here, right? You don't have to go anywhere, the books will come to you, right? The books will be here, and it's a masterpiece called Viewfinder, right? Those of, many of you, I don't know, those of you who have read the book will find it absolutely fascinating. So the books will be here, and Amolji will be here, and he will sign the copies for you. So with this, sorry for interrupting your conversation, and I now hand it over to Mohana Krishna to conduct the session. Thank you so much.
Good evening, all of you. First of all, let me say, sir, it's my great honor and privilege to be sitting beside you like this. And ma'am, I have grown up watching your films, and I have secretly stolen your ideas in some of my films, and I continue to do so. Actually, I'm making a comedy now, which I'm sure you would very much love when you watch it. As rightly pointed out, it would be really ridiculous for me to try and introduce Mr. Amol Palekar to all of you. It's like trying to introduce literature to literary personalities. Mr. Palekar is the very embodiment of artistry. He's a personification of what a true artist, what you call the best of visual artist has to be. He's a painter, he's a great theatre personality, he's one of the prolific film actors and directors who's made some of the milestone films that we have grown up watching. He has also directed some of the most important films in Indian cinema. He has directed he's directed 14 films. His films have won 5 national awards, 3 Filmfare awards in different capacities. I'm not going to categorize. And he's won 6 state awards, and his contribution to the theatre in both Marathi and Hindi is enormous, and cinema we don't have to, keep repeating. I have been instructed in the note sent to me not to spend too much time on introductions, because you would need more than this. Rest of it, all of us know. He's part of our lives, part of our cinematic heritage, whether I'm a Telugu speaking audience or a Tamil speaking audience. Mr. Palekar is part of our households, and it's a household name. So with that, sir, thank you so much for gracing this occasion, being generous and kind enough to be part of this Hyderabad Literary Festival and gracing the stage to interact with all of you. I've had the great pleasure of reading your autobiography. It has a fantastic name, Viewfinder, and the Viewfinder you talk about in your book. I got a similar Viewfinder as a gift from a producer who could pay me the money. So as a gift, he gave me the Viewfinder. So that actually summarizes the way you beautifully, poignantly wrote about how Krishna gave it to you from, Mr. Bimal Roy's one, which he got from him, and then he gave it to you. Once the monitors came, you said that you gave it back to his daughter. One of the striking things that I found about your book, and you start your book by dedicating to the power of resistance. One of the striking features I saw throughout your autobiography is that. So the first question I want to ask is, like one of my favorite filmmakers, Andrei Tarkovsky, said, I'm just paraphrasing him, he said, all art requires an ill-structured world, ill-designed world. Do you find resistance to be the major fuel for your creative output, be it theatre or cinema?
To begin with, that's a little too loud. Before I answer your question, I would like to introduce Sandhya. I always say that being my wife is the least of her qualification. Here today on this occasion, she is here because the book that Viewfinder we are going to discuss about, and hopefully you will also read subsequently. This is not only translated by her in English, but the entire book, the original Marathi book, also was curated and designed by Sandhya. And in one line I can say that we have been working together as a team, as a creative team for last so many years. This, I think, the book is the climax of our association in creative field. After now this brief introduction, let me come back to your question. Resistance, I think, is necessary if you don't want to flow with the mainstream. If you want to go with the mainstream, then you know there are norms, there are rules, there are structures which make the mainstream what it is. But if you want to do something different, then you have to resist. You have to resist that whole system. Unless you do that
I've ever read in any book, I was wondering, did you ever think of putting it in any of your movies? Did you ever think of writing a scene? Because I almost felt like stealing it. Because it's the most life, they say, no, truth is stranger than fiction. It has the most.
Please. Because.
No, it was nice in a way. It looked like a conflict,
but
it reflected a lot of respect and love for what you were doing in you and vice versa. So I thought it's a very interesting way of starting a relationship. So I was thinking, why did you ever think about it? I just want to ask you.
First and foremost, if you think our first meeting was romantic, then I think you must check the word once again in the dictionary of what romantic actually means. But apart from that, what you mentioned, you feel like stealing that for a film, you're most welcome.
No, sir, I definitely would like to, and then maybe how I want to convert it as a romantic scene. It's big a test for me. Coming to your, just what you said about her, the contribution of Sandhya ji to the book. I found the book to be, initially it took me a while to get used to the rhythm of it because it was non-linear, it was moving back and forth, and I was just having a word with you. Actually Amol ji put it like the way I was feeling, it was like a syncopated rhythm. It's like not a straightforward rhythm. It took me a while, but then I started getting into it and enjoying it. And the most brilliant idea about the book is the QR codes. I recommend all of you to see them because I have accessed. It's like a magic portal into the world of Mr. Palekar, his work, and also Sandhya ji's and their life together. Many beautiful events, historical events, political events. It's like an alternative world that is open. How did you come up with this marriage of analog and digital and reading a book and then allowing me to slip into that? Was it like, how much time did you think to come up with this?
We typically now, hypertexting is something that, we are sitting in the knowledge city. The two dimensions have to somehow percolate into three dimensions, is I felt. Otherwise, how would we project his art? Most people know him only as an actor, but most people don't know that he's an artist, and he has had many exhibitions, solo exhibitions throughout the world. How do we display that, his work? Book is hardly 300 pages, so so many pictures, so many things that we could actually like to share. I don't think we could have in a book. So then I thought of this idea that why don't we have QR codes? And through a QR code, you can actually scan it, you can watch it on your mobile, or you can cast it on your television and watch it as a family endeavor. So that's how I thought of it, and it took me about 8 months to actually put everything together, because all our films that you have mentioned in this are 4K resolution. They are the best of the best quality that you will find. So all that took a lot of time.
Was it a conscious decision to keep the timeline moving back and forth, ma'am? Like you move from absolute past to suddenly to the present to the past. Was it a conscious decision?
I mean, I think it is just a natural, instinctive thing. When we narrate an incident or when we narrate a story to our friends while we are having a party or chatting, we don't go linear way. We don't say that, oh, once upon a time, and that's something very uninteresting. What we normally do कि बात करते करते और पता है पहले क्या हुआ था, and then you go into a flashback and all that, we do it so naturally. So for Sandhya to have this pattern was a very, and apart from what she said about her association and her being a lawyer, one of the things I must mention is that last 8 films of mine, she is the writer for that, and the highlight for you to clap is Paheli is her writing.
Exactly. I'm going to come to that later.
Actually, to answer your question was his lifespan of 7 decades in the industry, and in so many different hats that he's worn, it was almost uninteresting to just say I was born on Monday, I ate on Tuesday, things like those. Then it would have been very, and we're filmmakers. So if we can't tell you a story interestingly, then probably who will?
Yeah, actually coming back, since he mentioned the collaborative thing, I want to link it to something else I want to ask, because we were talking about one of the most beautiful things I found in his book is how he feels that as a creative director, whether it's a theatre piece or a film director, a director should have the freedom to interpret the author's work according to his or her vision. And he constantly fought for it, and he appreciated people, those who did it. Being his collaborator, were there conflicts between you both? She had written something. For example, Paheli I thought was a wonderful film with a very fascinating ending. Any other work where you had a proper writer-director conflict, where you felt that you have to stand your ground and he felt that he has to stand?
Almost none, because he's such a contemporary man and he's a true feminist. So our sensibilities are truly very compatible. So we never really had any conflict as to the content of anything. Issues probably maybe whether to make a scene, a night scene or a morning scene, because I sleep at 9 o'clock, so I tend to write all scenes as day scenes. And so he converts many of the scenes in the night scenes, which I try my best to resist. These small things.
I know. This problem we always have. Producer says, sir, make everything into day scenes.
What you asked or hinted at, conflict with the writer. Let me make it very clear. My fights or my arguments with the playwrights, particularly in field of theatre, I strongly believe that the creation, the biggest credit must go to the writer. There are no two ways about it.
You have mentioned that actually.
But how to interpret it differently, what he may not have thought of, as a director, that right must belong to me. And many a times, the writers I found were, I wouldn't say rigid, but they were so possessive of what every word that they had written, that they wouldn't allow me or wouldn't agree with my interpretation. I have written about few incidents also about interpretation, and the same word, how it can be interpreted differently and probably more brilliantly. If you read those instances in the book, you will find. So I always stood for the different interpretation, and not to demean the writer or to consider that the writer is of a lesser importance. Certainly not. Writer is the basic starting point of the creative process.
Absolutely, sir. And you also extended in that page, I remember saying, you also found those arguments and discussions to be the most magical ones, the most creative and productive ones, because that's why you discovered the true meaning, underlying meanings of the text, which I thought was a very fascinating thing. Sir, you are a painter, you came into theatre, then you went into cinema. So you traversed most of the visual art, starting from the still to the movie. I was thinking, you also did a lot of mainstream films. You also did a lot of offbeat art cinema at that time, and some of the seminal ones. Did you ever feel averse to, did you think I'm doing mainstream cinema for money, or did you find that they also contribute artistically to cinema, or did you find them to be, okay, art cinema is the main film art, whereas commercial cinema is for, because there's a very interesting episode where you talked about how you did one play. It's called, I think, Apla Bua Asal Ahi, which you said I did for commercial reasons. So I wanted you to throw some light on how you see this, because one of the things I always face is I still haven't understood the definition of a commercial film. What does one mean by a commercial film? So from your point of view, as someone who's done both, how do you see the creative joy of doing both art cinema as well as so-called commercial cinema?
Commercial cinema, I think things are very clear. Anything and everything, the complete ingredient is designed for a commercial success. Today, I would like to share this with all of you. All of you are now so used to, as soon as the film is released, first thing that you read about or hear about is what is the commercial success of the film. Whether it has gone into 100 crore club or 700 crore club or 900 crore club. What has that got to do with your pleasure from the film? How much money the producer has accumulated, how is it of your concern? You want to know what is the interesting thing in the film that offers. What are the interesting points? What are the lovely moments that the film gives? One should talk about that, and one should talk about the technical excellence that the film may have achieved. All those things, I think I am interested more in that. Not that I want to support a flop film. I firmly believe that whatever money has been put, that money must come back. And we have worked and we have done films where the money came back. But to give you a very small example, I won't name the producer, but it was a big producer from Hindi film industry. We met in a party and he said, "अरे आप बड़ा अच्छा काम कर रहे हो, हमारे लिए भी कुछ बनाओ ना." So I said, oh, certainly, I have a few subjects which will, if we make that film, it will get you a lot of national and international acclaim, awards, ये वो, and आपने जो 2 रुपए डाले हैं, उसके 5 रुपए भी वापस आ जाएंगे. I thought I was being extremely, I was selling myself and my point very well. His response to all that was so direct and nice. He said, "Sirf 5 rupees kyun? Why not 500? Why not 5,000? Why not 5 lakh?" Now to expect, if you have invested 5 rupees or 2 rupees, but you aim to win 2 lakhs of rupees, 2 crores of rupees, then that's a different approach to filmmaking. That's a different way that why you are making a film. I could never identify with that. And so whenever I went and acted in a commercial film, I did it because I enjoyed doing what I was doing. Otherwise, I wouldn't accept the film. Unless I was sure, I was known to be such a difficult actor that if 10 films were offered to me, I would reject 9 of them and select only 1. Now, this was completely detrimental to the system that exists. I have written extensively about that also.
Exactly.
And how people from the film industry tried to dissuade me from that. कि आप ये क्या कर रहे हो? क्यों कर रहे हो? मत करो ऐसा. But that's what I am.
Absolutely. As a segue, sir, one of the things that struck me in your book, while you write about your experiences and your certain issues that with the system and all that, you also are very philosophical. I would like to quickly read a small passage that you wrote, which starts the chapter echoes from within. The question, "Who am I?" has been a riddle for the ages, mused upon by psychologists, literary titans, and philosophers alike, Aristotle, Freud, Descartes, and modern opponents of the 4E perspective. It is a query not confined to intellectual giants. It is pondered by every introspective soul, including me. As we transition from self-awareness to the 4Es, embodied, embedded, enacted, extended cognition, the external environment permeates our subconscious, merging and surfacing to form an intricate identity we call me. I suddenly felt I was reading some philosophical treatise or something, where you have openly said you are an atheist. You do not believe in God. You also said that you've written that you're deeply influenced by Marxist-Leninist framework of the world. But you also say in many places when you're writing about the death of some of your colleagues or friends, and sometimes philosophical about yourself, saying, leaving this world, they have left this world, Do you see any, from your perspective, do you see any other world other than this which you think fascinates you? How do you see it philosophically? I would like both of you. I also want to add Sandhya in this because are you first of all an atheist? Or how do you cope with this atheistic side?
We both are strong and staunch atheists.
Okay.
And we don't believe that there is any world after the death. So we can imagine, maybe because we have imagination, but at the philosophical level, no, we don't believe that.
Yeah, but you have also said, which is very poetic and beautiful, that there are many questions in this life that are unresolved. There are a lot of riddles. No, we should not try and answer them. So that's why I was very curious as to how you see that.
No, but those unresolved questions can't be given by God or something. In fact, when we talk of I being and Sandhya being an atheist, we don't believe in that concept. So we have, I won't go and tell you, stop believing in God. It is your prerogative, what you want to do. Having said that, I have also written that being an atheist is not at all easy,
Yes.
because by not being an atheist, you have so many excuses, ready excuses कि ये मेरे नसीब में ही था यार, मैं क्या करूं. So you don't want to own the responsibility of your own mistakes. You can pass it on to Nasib. You can pass it on to destiny. I am destined not to be successful. Just the other day, we were having similar chat, and the person was so insistent. He said that I have tried my best, but I have not been successful. Now, shouldn't I blame God for that? It's your choice, you keep blaming God. If I am in your place, I would try and look what mistakes I did or how I could have corrected those mistakes and stand by them and learn from them.
Actually, being an atheist does put a pressure on oneself, because all the time the process of introspection is on. It's all the time it's going on, because you have to own up your own mistakes, you have to own up your own decisions, and it's difficult.
Actually, as an extension to this, what's beautiful about your life is you've also talked about your social consciousness. Even small things like, which I found kind of very touching, is you said, I have traveled the world, we nearly went around 40 countries, but I feel guilty that we've caused a lot of pollution. We contributed to world pollution by flying around so much. And you talked about, you used to smoke like 72 cigarettes a day at one point of time. And then and then you have this ethical integrity.
Not 1 point, for 25 years.
25 years, 72 cigarettes per day, I was trying to calculate. And you also talked about your professional integrity, about doing things to your co-actors without permission, either slapping them or kissing them. So many people, when they have personal failings, resort to religious faith. What is your anchor whenever you felt you have to overcome these personal failures? Is it love? Is it introspection, as ma'am was saying, is a very demanding thing. Was there an anchor when you were trying to overcome these personal shortcomings?
You mentioned slapping co-actors. He didn't go on slapping.
No.
There's one incident about
Bhumika. What I find moving is, after that he went and spoke to Smitaji, and he in spite of being working with someone like Benagil sir, you were very honest and frank that you do not approve of it, which I think is a testament of your integrity.
No, what I do not approve of, he is referring to one incident in the book. I would like to go into slight detail about that. We were shooting for Bhumika, and where in one scene, Shyamji was not happy with what was happening. So before the take, he took me aside and he said, "You slapped Smita." I said, "Okay, I'll go and tell her." He said, "No, without telling her, in the shot, you slap her." I said, "No, I can't do that. I am not a person, not an actor. I don't do anything which is not rehearsed, first and foremost. Secondly, I never raise my hand against a woman. So, I can't do this." He said, "It's an order." And I was also very young at that time. So, I was completely confused. I didn't know what to do. And just as I was going through my dilemma, he ordered start sound and all that, and the take happened. And Smita was performing as she was in the rehearsals, as we had rehearsed together. And suddenly, out of nowhere, I grabbed her by one hand and gave her one slap. The expressions on her face went on changing so much. She didn't expect that. She couldn't believe that I would do such a thing. And being a very good actor, she knew that the director hasn't said cut. So the shot is still going on. She went on performing with amazing performance. At this distance, I kept watching only her. As soon as the shot was over, I went and told her, I said, I'm extremely sorry, Smita. She said, no, don't. And we hugged each other and we cried so much that she said, no, thank you for making me give that brilliant performance. But I was so disturbed because I don't come from that school where anything that is not rehearsed properly, not known to your co-actor, I will never do that. I don't believe in doing that. So that was going against my grain. And then again, raising your hand against a woman is also against my grain. I have never ever done it in my life, nor do I approve of that. So this is something which it was completely against my grain and it disturbed me so much.
Absolutely. No, what I found, I really admired your courage to express it without worrying about, oh, I'm saying this about this, but whatever you stood for, sir, it's something that people like me as young filmmakers have to learn. That to maintain certain ethical standards when you're working on a set with, especially towards women. So I would like to bow my head, sir, in reverence for this fantastic, I love to really, this passage, I remember welling up, reading it, when you wrote that we both hugged and sobbed, that's what you wrote. And I remember actually tearing up reading that particular passage. It's really one of the most touching passages in the whole autobiography.
There were two more instances that he has mentioned. When he was shooting Daira, he was working with Sonali Kulkarni and Nirmal Pandey. And Nirmal used to drink a lot. I mean a lot. So he used to smell, the odor used to come up. So he being so sensitive, there was an intimate scene between them. So he went and told Nirmal that for next 3 days, you're not going to drink at all. And please respect her, please respect my wishes. And he didn't. And I mean, he's very particular about little things, and he's very sensitive towards what others will think.
Absolutely. Sir, can I ask you that how much did Sandhya ji contributed to the expansion of your, if I may use the word, feminist outlook of the world? How much her association has? Because when you have written that in Paheli, she has deliberately changed the ending of it, which I found very, very strong and very powerful. Not only that, in your other films, also, right from the beginning I have seen that, right, starting from Ankahi, there is a tremendous compassion towards the, but I just wanted to see, after your collaboration, did you see yourself, because it happened to me, with my wife, who's a professor in cultural studies, of me growing as a person?
Absolutely. I mean, my association with Sandhya has expanded my horizons to a great extent. But even earlier, in pre-Sandhya days also, I think the women in my life, particularly, I have mentioned the one incident of my elder sister. I was in school at that time. She going and slapping a man for misbehaving. Now, these were strong women in my life who shaped my life. A person like Kumudben Mehta, most of you wouldn't even know who Kumud Mehta is. But Kumudben Mehta was a woman who was a strong pillar behind the entire censorship fight with Gidhade. That was the one play which I would like to share with all of you. Gidhade was a play written by Vijay Tendulkar and with vultures in English. that play, first the censor board, there is another issue. We have a censor board for theatre only in Maharashtra and Gujarat. Now this is what I and Sandhya, we are fighting against in Mumbai High Court as well as in Supreme Court. But that's a separate issue against censorship, so to say. Gidhade was a play where it was so violent and full of abusive language, etc., etc. Censor board just wouldn't pass it. Kumud Mehta was on the censor board, and she was the one, along with another woman, a very celebrity writer from Marathi, Sarojini Vaidya. Those two women who were on the censor board, they started fighting within the board, and they saw to it that ultimately the cuts, they agreed to give a certificate to the film, but with some 38 cuts or something like that. And that's when Dubey, my guru, who was the producer of that play, and Dr. Lalu, who was the director of the play, they went to High Court and they fought there in the High Court and got all those cuts removed, and finally only one cut which both of them accepted, which is also a very interesting thing. I can't resist sharing it with you. At the first performance of Gidhade, I was an assistant doing backstage and all for that play. So seeing it from the wings and all that. The first performance, it was pouring, and despite the pouring and the season, it was a full house because of this publicity that this play was about to be banned, etc., etc. And there is only one cut now. After the announcement, usual announcement of credits and cast and all that, there was a special announcement made. The announcement, yes, and Dubey made that announcement saying that we have accepted one cut which says that the red stain on the female actor's sari should be removed. We have accepted that, and therefore you will see a blue stain on the sari. And there was a thunderous applause and a huge laughter, as all of you did. And the play went on to make history in many ways, many ways.
Actually, the Marathi literature, I'm sure many of you know, Marathi literature has tremendous contribution from female writers, right from Vibhavati Shirulkar, 1934, onwards. I mean, I can really, it's enormous. It's just that unfortunately nothing is much translated in English, so probably it doesn't reach to you. But that spectrum, and Amolji has adopted many of the literary classics in his, films or web series or whatever. So, stronger point of view from women is something that he probably thrives. I mean, he loves that.
Ma'am, there are so many more questions to ask, but I've been getting these signals from them. I just want to ask one last question. Of course, this has been the most deep and most exhaustive account of Mr. Palekar's life, work, and everything. Is there anything that is not there in the book? Something quirky, something funny, something interesting that you wouldn't mind sharing with us about him, which is your own, private observation.
this is his book. I haven't written that. So if I were to write it, there is equally 300 pages book that probably needs to be seen.
Wonderful.
He's much more than that. Things like, you know, he can't live without sweets. Probably, sweet is the only thing that he probably looks forward to. Or he can't take indiscipline or people driving, you know, through the. He gets most ruffled, most. So there are just so many things, and he does very unlike Amol Palekar kind of things come out. I can just quickly share one thing. We were driving from Bombay to Pune, and one truck driver was trying to, you know, push us, or you know, he was driving very badly. I could see his ears. He's fuming through his ears. He tells our driver to speed up, go and stop right in front of the truck. And you know, he, if he's angry, I mean, people know that he's angry. So the driver also did that, and I was like, really? So he went and stopped. The truck also stopped with all those noises and all that. He quickly got down. He climbed up on the truck, pulled the driver down, and he was about to bash, and then I said, "You're not going to hit him." So, you know, you will see many things, such things, you know, through my book.
There goes one more scene for me. So finally, I just want to ask you, sir, as we conclude your remarks, some of the most memorable films for me are your films with Basudha, Rashida, and those light, beautiful comedies about middle class lives, the quirks, the insecurities. In this era when there is enormous amount of consumerism and middle classes are aiming to be consumerist, do you see, Hindi cinema seems to have forgotten that, I personally feel. Do you see any possibility of those beautiful Utpandar, you know, Amol Palekar, those beautiful small families and their quirks and problems movies coming back? Not only, of course, in Hindi, but anywhere in this era of OTTs.
The answer is yes and no. I'll say no first. Why? Because the kind of middle class that I represented, or you could see during 70s, 80s, even 90s, that middle class doesn't exist today. The middle class of today has his own vehicle, has a flat. So all those anxieties about how to do better in life have changed. So, like Gharonda, that the whole dilemma of that boy, because he wants to buy a flat, और उसको ठगा जाता है, that money has vanished. So he's desperate. It's so vulnerable. I don't see that vulnerability, that kind of vulnerability in the middle class youth today. So their problems are different. Their problems are, and I'll come to the yes part of it. I forget the name, but I saw a Tamil film, I think, which was starring Arvind Swamy and
Satyam Sundaram in Telugu.
now such a beautiful film, such a sensitive film. It is being made today, and people are not only appreciating it, people are applauding. So why do you say that it's not happening?
Sir, thank you. It's been, I am not happy. I wanted to ask a million more questions. Now the floor is open for questions, so I may steal my one or two questions through the floor. But sir, it's been a great honor again and a privilege. Sandhya ma'am, thank you so much. I didn't know you before. I know you now through his book, and knowing you now has added to my knowledge of what it's to be not only as a filmmaker but also as a human being, and how much you contributed to Palekarji's persona and his art. I think I bow my head in gratitude and reverence. Thank you once again for gracing the stage and
Thank
this
you.
occasion. And I'd like to now open the floor. I think we have 10 minutes of questions. Anybody can ask.
Good evening, sir. I want to have a question. 40 years back, there was a very good program which used to come on Doordarshan. It was made from Satyajit Ray's book, and you started one of the episodes. That episode was with Dr. Sriram Lagule, and as a kid, I was deeply haunted by it. So, I just want to, unfortunately, we don't get the print of those episodes, those kind of serials which were made in that era. So, belonging to the film fraternity, so is there any kind of effort which is made from the film and the art fraternity to revive that kind of work? And you as a filmmaker, do you see any kind of viability in reviving those kind of content that was made?
Actually, the Satyajit Ray production, they have almost revived everything that they had made. His son has done that, right? So, yeah. So you'll find it in Kolkata, maybe you can find it.
I request you to keep the questions very short so that we can at least have more people in the short time that we have.
Hello. I read your book and it was fascinating. I was a great fan of yours, and as I was reading the book, I said, why doesn't he talk about this? And you talked about that. I said, why didn't he talk about that? And you talked about that. You didn't disappoint me. So there are two things I want to ask you. The transition from the boy next door to the villainy in Ankahi, I think it was a perfect villain for me. And the villainy that you are such a classic villain in Shyam Benegal's Bhumika. The transition was fantastic. How easy was it or how difficult was it for you? Question one. And the comment, sir, as the poor man, as people, I'll never forget your dialogue from Naram Garam. In spite of Utpal Dutt's terrific performance, I shed tears in that film when you said, when Swarup Sampath asked, "तुम कैसे आदमी हो?" and you say, "मैं आदमी कहाँ, मैं तो गरीब हूँ."
As my very close friends always said at that time, that there is nothing surprising in that. He is villainish actually. So playing a villain came more naturally to him than playing a hero. But that's also, you see, character in Ankahi is also, I wouldn't call it a villain, but lots of grey shades. I mean, person who is in love with a girl and yet goes and marries another girl who, because she will die, as his father has predicted. His father being a great Jyotishi, he has predicted that तुम जिसी के साथ शादी करोगे वो मर जाएगी. So he promptly goes and marries another girl, hoping that she will die. So that, I mean, what kind of a man he is? I think it's a lot of grey shades, and I always like to have those more of grey shades to explore as an actor than the goody hero.
Your comic timing with Utpal Dutt was always very phenomenal. So what was the kind of relationship you shared with Utpal Dutt ji?
As I have mentioned in the book, you can read a little more extensively. But Utpal Da, I knew much before we acted together. I knew him as a theatre person, as a great theatre personality. Many of you wouldn't know but this is something very interesting you must know. Utpal Dutt was the first Indian citizen, not only an actor but Indian citizen, to be arrested for sedition. The play that he did was so anti-government that government arrested him, put him in a prison, and he continued to do those plays despite all this. Now this aspect of Utpal Dutt I knew from close quarters. Whenever I used to go to Kolkata, after my shooting was over, I would go and sit at his rehearsals, I would interact with him, we'll have a drink together and all that. So my being what you see as the beautiful chemistry in Golmaal and then further on was just part of it. Our relationship was much richer and much vibrant.
Hi sir, I just want to ask you one question sir. As per your observation in the filmmaking, what are the disadvantages in the digital filmmaking and what are the advantages in analog filmmaking and filmmaking? So how can we make the disadvantages in the digital era into an advantage? Thank you.
I think you should ask this to a younger director, but all I can say is the digital era and the technological advances that we have made, there are so many advantages which come with that. But along with that, you will also see that people have become so dependent on technology that you don't see the man behind that. Most of the films that you watch, you will see that it's the same pattern, same kind of taking, same kind of beautifully corrected, color corrected, glossy, all that. I mean, you don't see a person today, like in my days, if a person was a villager or even from a poor family, his collar, you could immediately guess from his collar that this is a very old cloth, old shirt, and the collar is gone. We used to recreate that kind of a collar. Today, you see any film, anything on OTT platform, you will never see that. Because everything has to be chuck, everything has to be very glossy, and even you don't see a dirty white shirt. The white shirt is also very prim and proper. Now these are the advantages that the technology has given us. But therefore, why are we forgetting the basics behind, and the man who sees that, man who visualizes that, unless his vision is clear, what he wants to portray, what he wants to project, then all this technology is of no use.
I think overuse of technology is also taken a toll, because when we used to make films, at the most we used to have 2 cameras set up. Now there are 3, 4, and there is a handycam, there is a drone shots, and I mean hovering around you. I mean, there is just multiple things going on. Now the maturity is what actually you visualize and what actually you need. Just because everything is available doesn't mean that you have to opt for it. So the maturity, I think, comes from that.
I think I've been told to wrap it up, sir. Thank you so much once again. It's a pleasure. I hope you all had a great time, and I wanted to read so many passages from the book, but I didn't want to bore you with my reading. I wanted sir to interact with all of you. But please do read this book. It's a fantastic account of one of the truly greatest film personalities of our era. It's a filmmaker, an actor, and a personality to whom all of us owe a lot, our heritage and our lives. So please read this book, and thank you once again, Amolji, and thank you so much, Sandhya, for being here. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Ladies and gentlemen, before we let Amol, Mohana Krishna leave, thank you so much, Mohana Krishna. I know how busy you are during this period, and thank you very much for taking time out for us. On behalf of HLF, I thank Mohana Krishna Indraganti. A big cheer for Mohana Krishna, please.